Welcome, welcome, welcome to the School of Radiance podcast. I'm your host, a humble human on a mission, here to help you both look and feel your best. Today, we have a very special returning guest. We have Reed Davis joining us today. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about some gut health tips from the industry expert on gut health himself, and also some of the shifts that we're seeing in the health and wellness industry, with more and more providers actually adding additional training to their toolkit to help others both look and feel their best. So before we get into today's interview, I'd love to introduce Reed Davis to you. He's a double board certified holistic health practitioner and certified nutritional therapist. He's a globally recognized expert in functional lab testing and holistic lifestyle medicine. As a visionary founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, otherwise known as FDN, Reed has pioneered the FDN Certification Course, which has empowered over 4,000 practitioners and keeps growing across 50 countries to take charge of their clients' health. With more than a decade of experience as a health director at a Southern California wellness center, Reed has personally guided over 10,000 clients to optimal wellness, making him one of the most sought-after clinicians in his field. I feel like that introduction doesn't do you justice, Reed Davis. You are the gut health industry expert. It's great to have you back here on the show. How are you today? And of course, what is radiance to you?
Radiance is how I feel right now. Just being here with you and doing some good work in the world and being healthy, having all the energy and feeling well rested and well fed and all the things, most important being a spiritual connection to, for me, it's the Heavenly Father, to whom I owe all gratitude and thanks, and without whom I wouldn't be here today. So I think it comes from within. It's obviously, and I know I've known you for quite a while. Yeah, you can buff your skin up and you can do all kinds of things, but if it isn't coming from the inside out, then what is it really?
Very well stated, I must say. And just a little behind the scenes of really who Reed Davis is. Reed Davis is nothing short of an angel in the flesh, in my opinion. I know you personally, Reed, and you've just been such an incredible support behind the scenes for me during some tough times. So just for everybody to know that, Reed, you have a very special place in my heart. You always will, you and your beautiful wife. And I'm so excited for you to share some tips with us on how we can also be our best versions. And to start with gut health, what are some tips? What are some mistakes that you see a lot of people making that they can start to tweak now? And then we're maybe going to go into some more in-depth lab stuff.
I'm happy to go as deep as you want, of course, Rachel. First of all, same to you. Raywin and I are very fond of you and enjoyed having you as a guest, and want to see and have enjoyed seeing your career flourish as you travel around the world doing good work and continue with your uh, podcast here to bring the strong message of self-reliance and um, taking control of one's health back from wherever the heck it disappeared to. And so you keep up that good message. And I'm going to throw a twist at you in terms of the gut health. I know a few things that have been started 26 years ago now, trying to help people with their changes they wanted to make in the way they felt or the way they looked. So how you feel and look is really important. And if there's something you don't like, you get to change it. You get to say, hey, I'm not taking this anymore. Whether it's taking the lotions, potions, powders, and pills that aren't working, and or all the different other things you can do now. It's different now than it was back then, but still, um, it's really trying to. There's something called reductionism that I've been fighting for 26 years. It's like a lot of standard practitioners treat people a lot like I treat my motorcycle. You know how much I love to ride. And, a couple of times the bike is broke down on the road and You take it in, and the guy goes, "Sir, we've diagnosed the problem, and we have the parts in stock, and we'll have your bike right back to you." Well, that's great, but much as all the bikers and I love our motorcycles, we know they're not people. So I always thought it was strange that we get treated a lot like just this part or that part, including gut. Um, and there's things you can zero in on right there. But if you don't look at the whole person, you have to look at their hormones. You have to look at their immune system, very much connected to the gut. And then, of course, digestion is always affected, and detoxification and other things. So I find that the best gut strategy is to look at the whole person and do some testing, see what the issues are in all of these areas. Because guess what? You don't hear this a lot. There's always multiple causal factors, and they're having an effect on each other, sometimes way upstream from where your digestive problems are, whether it be heartburn, gas, indigestion, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, or the famous alternating diarrhea and constipation. You've got issues, and they affect your life very dramatically. And you think it's that you're tied to the bathroom or whatever it is, but it's really a whole person approach that connects the dots again within that, our HIDDEN, the hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, nervous system. So when you look at the gut that way, you can again run the labs and understand how these areas are affecting each other and really resolve it more permanently. Because people with gut problems, they want relief. They just want to feel better for now. They want to stop the heartburn, gas, indigestion, bloating, and so on. Um, but is that good enough? Is it going to come back, or is it not going to come back? So when you take the holistic approach, you're going to get much more permanent results. And so again, what we do in FDN, you know this, teach a course in it. It's run the labs, all of them, and then correlate it clinically. We call it clinical with that person. Does this explain why Mrs. Smith or Mr. Jones feels so lousy? And it always does. And we're always getting great, some of our best accolades come from people who say, "God, no one ever explained it to me like this before, or showed me all of the ways the dots are connected, the data is connected." And so then they're much more likely to go after that protocol, which we can talk about. They're going to be more dedicated to the protocol to restore their gut, because they know they're also working on their hormones and their immune system, digestion, detoxification, energy production, nervous system balance. So when you work on it all, and it's not that hard to do, pretty proven methodology after all these years, then the gut stuff goes away permanently unless some new thing occurs. That's our basic approach, is to
Yeah,
not be basic.
I know, right? Like this stuff isn't basic. It's actually about getting dialed in. And for you as a motorcycle rider for many years, you have quite the ride. I'm going to use you as a bit of an example here and create an analogy for everybody tuning in. Number one, Reed Davis is one of the most radiant men I have ever encountered in my whole life. And the reason why you are is because you are so finely in tune with how your body operates, but also how you ride your bike, right? You can have a great bike, but if you're not maintaining it, if you're not putting the right fuel in it, not using the right oil, the electrical is a little shoddy, the spark plugs are a bit dirty, the carburetor needs to get cleaned out, you need a new battery, not to mention you haven't learned how to ride your bike.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to have a great ride, right? So for you, what you do is you've taken the process of kind of learning how to ride the bike, or AKA how to go through life with testing instead of guessing. But you have to learn how to ride the bike. You have to learn how to operate your physical form, but also the mental and emotional components too. And you're absolutely right that everything with our gut is connected to our hormones, is connected to our immune system. everything is interconnected, like the systems and structures on your bike. If the electrical isn't working, if the energy production isn't working, you're not going to go anywhere because the engine won't start. So what are some of the tests? And sometimes people think, oh, tests, gosh, I have to go to all this specialist and it's going to take so much time and money. You've actually really simplified this process. So say, for example, someone's really struggling. They know that they have to mix things up. They have to change the way that they live, the way that they eat. They know that they can no longer go through life feeling the way that they feel. You've created a really great system to help people. So what is the journey like if you were to kind of lay out what the FDN process is like when, say, working with an FDN practitioner? What's that journey like?
It depends how someone finally discovers us, and we find each other and what their main complaints are, how often that bothers them, how long that's been going on, what have they tried so far that obviously hasn't worked, and that could be very, very frustrating. So um, you have to engage in a way that they're open to doing something different that they haven't tried before, even if they've run another lab before. I want to back up for just a second. Say, with the motorcycle, you can know that your bike is in good shape. I can go start mine up right now. Just a push of a button, flick of the wrist, boom, goes up. But guess what? Before I take it on the road, I have to check the tires. Something as simple as just having the right air and pressure in the tires, a little bit more in the front and in the back, whatever you're set up for, can be really, really important. So there's that sort of daily maintenance. That's me. In the mornings, I get up and I give thanks and count my blessings, and that way I'm more likely to have a good day. And if something does occur that's unpleasant, you've always got your place to go home to, your place to go back to. So there is some similarities there. I think it's funny you pointed them out. But when you get to a person who needs help in the journey, which was your question, the for FDN we have a methodology. It's not a different thing for this person or that person. We're going to run our hormone, immune, digestion. We're going to look at the pillars of health on paper and then correlate it with that person. And you can see the downward spiral in these labs. So as we start off with saliva testing, urine testing, stool testing, and some blood testing, and there's other tests you can run. I have access to about 75 different labs right now. And all my graduates, we can run any of them. We run 5 tests in everyone to get started because that's the groundwork. If you don't have these in balance and working properly, everything else is going to go haywire, and everything else might be haywire. But when you at least get this assessment done, you've got a place to start. And so I would go into any one of those. It's kind of like sailing a boat. I grew up on the Great Lakes. My dad had a couple sailboats when we were kids, and you can't steer the ship if it isn't moving. There has to be wind for a sailboat, and because until then you're dead in the water. You're just so we get the ship moving. You got to get some momentum going, and the lab work is really good. People engage us. They do pay. They pay us, and they pay for the labs. But they now are engaged in. I'm on a mission. I'm on a path. I'm moving forward. Now the data we get back is like the wind in the sails, or the currents into the water, or the waves pushing up against the bow, and all the other elements that are there to keep us moving forward. We have the data, and we can use their diet and their rest and their exercise and their stress reduction and supplementation methods. So I know I'm giving you very general answers to what are more specific questions, but I think it's good to give this sort of background first and go, it's a methodology, Rachel, as you know, it's step by step. And it was created in an office, as you alluded to in my brief bio there. I worked in an office for 10 years. And at first, I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to help people. But I had very good mentors, and I had access to these labs. And over time, I had great mentorship, but I made my own observations about who got better and who didn't. And I recognize patterns. Maybe I'm good at that or something, but I'm a good organizer of things. And so I created something that could be repeated with the next person who came in the office and the next person and the next person. And after 10 years, thousands of people, I was asked, well, hey, you should be teaching this. It's a pretty good system you got here. And so that's where I landed to be here in front of you today. I teach. But the system is looking for underlying causes and conditions, understanding the relationship between these causal factors. And you want to know something I just learned last fall? Came out in a research paper at the University of California, San Diego, where I live. And it said the original cause, we're all looking for root cause. It doesn't even have to be there anymore. It just had to start a metabolic downward spiral, and it could have been gone. That problem is resolved, but the dysfunction is still there. So in our search, again, I'll try to give pause and maybe bring me back on track here because I get off on tangents. But in our search, we're looking for healing opportunities, as many as we can identify. These healing opportunities are the targets, and you can only really treat them. I mean, we call it self-treating because it's the person who does the work. But the work we do affects every cell, tissue, organ, and system in the body. It affects the whole organisms simultaneously. So that holistic type approach, the epigenetic approach, outperforms every other system that we've seen so far. We all know treating symptoms just doesn't work for very long, but it's even deeper than that to look at these relationships. And hope I answered the question. If not, just ask it again.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. For those who've tuned into the show for a while, you've heard me say test instead of guess. And Reed, you mentioned something super key that I really want to shine a light on right now. A lot of times people find someone with an FDN certification at the end of their name, right? FDN, just like I'm Rachel Varga, BSCN, RN, CANS. I definitely am looking forward to adding FDN at some point. They look at doing this testing when their body's already in crisis. They know something's wrong. They're not getting answers. They're not getting solutions through the traditional Western approach. So they find someone with an FDN certification to go through the different data points through collection, through saliva, blood, urine, stool, and then they get information. What we don't consider is actually doing this type of testing and analysis and epigenetic testing, which you mentioned, to actually be like an investment so that when we experience more life stress, whether that's emotional or, family stuff, just life stuff in general. You mentioned the metabolism, and it's so incredibly key to be metabolically flexible so that when life stuff happens, you don't end up looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, what happened? You can look at yourself in the mirror and say, yep, I take good care of myself. I was able to overcome this obstacle and my health didn't suffer, even though it was really stressful. I took the time to rest. I continued to eat the right foods because I test instead of guess what I should be eating and supplementation. And that provides something really important: metabolic flexibility. And one of the key aspects to being your most beautiful, radiant version for your life is to always be ready. So to have that information that you can unpack with an FDN practitioner, to be always resilient, to be always radiant no matter what, so that you continue to show up for yourself as well as those who depend on you and you love most. like your partner, like your kids, those who lean on you in a professional capacity in your community. And like you said, we all find each other. Just very blessed that we found each other way back when, many years ago, because you just opened my eyes to this whole world. And we're seeing that people just aren't satisfied with the Western approach to when something goes wrong. Maybe going on bioidentical hormones could have been better supported and addressed if we had a GI map done and we did those other tests that you mentioned for saliva, blood, urine, stool, and some others that could actually have gotten to the root cause. So for those of you listening who are, say, around my age, or you're in perimenopause, you're noticing things are shifting, get ahead of menopause and postmenopause changes too by actually doing this stuff, so that you set yourself up for success, and you don't have a health crisis down the line. If it could have been prevented, if there were already some markers that were coming up in the test that you could get ahead of. So that's why this information is not like doom and gloom, and it's not an easy fix for, you want great gut health, do this. It has to be on an epigenetic, personalized level through data points and analysis to give you the information so that you get more peace and clarity that what you're doing is actually supported by the information that you've gathered. A little bit more strategy behind it. Peace brings me clarity for sure.
Yeah.
What are you seeing now, Reed, especially with the health and wellness industry? What are you seeing in the shift with practitioners?
Oh, I'm seeing so much. It's what I do every day, and you just see everything. And big categories would include, obviously, the biohacking movement is new. That's it. Well, at least the technology's new. So I built my first health and wellness business with a pager and a fax machine. That was super great. Like, wow, put it in and it ends up half an hour later, it's at someone else's desk and they can print it out. And, you get it. Pager, fax machine. I do remember when Blackberries came out, I thought those were cool. I was the last guy to give up his Blackberry because I liked it. I just learned to use it. And now they're trying to switch me to an iPhone. So the technology is so much different now. That's probably the biggest shift. And with that, you can find uh, all kinds of wonderful techniques and tools. I just came from a show in Miami last weekend, and I sat in a couple of the booths where the vendors are exhibiting their wares, like vagal tone, thing. And there's a couple different kinds. The red light therapy, the pulse electromagnetic wave frequencies, and all these things. And I think it's all wonderful. And yet, I don't think that you're going to PEMF your way out of a bad diet, not exercising, watching too much TV, stressing yourself out. You don't take any supplement. You can't PEMF or red light yourself out of bad behavior. And you can take even back to what we do, which is diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, which could include some of those techniques, especially around the getting rid of the parasites, bacteria, funguses, viruses, food sensitivities, mold, and all the crap. Those are just stressors, and the supplements and things. So we know that where we started, physicians were it basically was drugs and surgery. That's really all they had to offer. So I in 1999 signed up with an alternative medical or alternative health center, and I did it because my son was a high school athlete, and I was just taking him in all the time. I wanted him. He got 7 varsity letters in 4 different sports, but I got a new career because I loved what they did there so much. I had to talk myself into a job, and I ended up in 3 months. I was running the place. I was just the older, experienced guy, and but I was studying the anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, and I was interviewing every single person. So this is way before quote unquote biohacking in terms of all the gizmos and very neat technology stuff. And doctors were just barely giving a nod to diet and exercise. They're like, doctors, anything I can do to get off this thyroid medication? No, you have to take it the rest of your life. And people were being told that, or they were being told nothing's wrong with you. Your blood work looks normal. You alluded to that when you said, hey, this is pre or what we call subclinical levels that we're testing here. We're looking for, anticipating what's going to happen if you don't clean your act up. So anyway, so there's always been this nod towards diet and exercise, and you got to do that with the stress reduction, with the good sleep, with the supplementation and things. And it has to be finely tuned for one person, or none of the rest matters. All the drugs and surgery in the world won't make you healthy. And a lot of the biohacking stuff, much as I appreciate its ability to relieve symptoms and to encourage healing, you'd still have to stick with the basics. So I don't know if this will summarize it. There's people who are unwell and want to get well, but there's people who are actually pretty well, and they might be doing biohacking and they might be doing some things, and they wake up, they got energy, they're not overweight, they think clearly, so but they want to be super well and live a long time. They go, hey, it's easy to be 40. Let me tell you, I'm 72 years old now this year, and it's easy to be 40. It's a little harder the older you get, so you better pay attention, which is what you said. And we like getting the data, and that's the other thing I'd add to the biohacking thing. So the big difference I've seen, to answer your question, is the amount of technology that we brought in. But at the same time, if you don't have your basics, that's my commentary on it, that you have to have that in. I'll just give you a quick example. 25 years ago, I ran labs on people, but I had to get printed pages from all the labs. We get them in the mail, 2 days, 5 days, weekly, and then I would photocopy them from my copies, and I take the originals, put them in a package with all of the other data I wanted, and mail it to the person. Postage stamps. And when they got it, we'd set up an appointment, and I'd go over it on the phone. We basically invented telemedicine 25 years ago. But so imagine what you could do today with the electronic versions and instantaneous results and stuff, not to mention Zoom calls and things like we're on today. I did it all with a pager and a fax machine, and going to grocery stores to lecture so they could see me and meet me. And there's a great thing to that, the handshaking and but getting their name on a legal pad, their name and their phone number. You don't even have email addresses and stuff. So yeah, technology is the big thing, and I don't know. There's other stuff with people's point of view, but maybe we could talk about that another time, or wherever you want to take it.
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time because, Reed, for everybody tuning in, like Reed's a big deal. He's the godfather of gut testing, and he's right here on the show with us. So you're kind of playing it down a little bit, but you've shared your history. So now I think that the listeners and audience really get a sense of who you are and what you've done for the industry. And I'm very happy that you mentioned biohacking. I completely agree with you that you should test instead of guess how you're living, get information on your biomarkers before investing in some of this fancy technology, and even before detoxing, right? Parasite testing, before doing any type of parasite detoxing, which totally changed the game for me too. But one of the things that I really noticed, and I know you have too, is a lot more Western trained physicians and nurses, and I know you're listening, those of you who are fellow practitioners, are now adding FDN to their toolkit. And we're seeing also the shift in med spas of, especially in the States, becoming more of a one-stop shop to not only look great with rejuvenation, but also add some of the functional integrative testing, which is exactly what that FDN certification does. So for those of you listening who are a practitioner, Reed Davis is, in my opinion, offering the best training possible over at fdntraining.com/Varga. We'll get you some information to get started right away. And then for those of you who are, like, oh, what test should I get? Those with the FDN certifications are, in my opinion, the ones that are actually best trained because of all of the tools, all of the decades of resources and experience that you have in order to provide this very comprehensive approach to health and wellness. Now, this is not medical advice, it's educational information only. If you think you have a medical condition, you must seek the guidance of a licensed physician. I know you have to go here, Reed, but do you have any closing words for us here today?
Well, you touched on a lot there, and the conversation should continue. And yes, we offer training. It's founded in basically 10 years working in the office. We sorted out a few things for sure. Humbly stated, I know. But then I was encouraged to teach. I had people saying, "You think of all the people you could help if you taught." The only reason I developed all that was for our office to make us popular and successful. And we were. But when I realized I could help so many more people by teaching, just sort of kind of illuminating, indoctrinating, teaching, getting access to the labs is critical, which we give to even non-licensed practitioners. Anyone can run a lab these days, but can you put the data together and help a person is the key. And the program is so robust now after 15 years of teach that I would say, yeah, we can teach you whether you're, say, a college grad. Most are a college grad with a certificate or two in something like nutrition or fitness or something. Lots of neat modalities out there, by the way, but they want to up level. We have that, and then we also have the already professional nurse practitioners and PAs and even physicians who just aren't satisfied with the results they're getting, and their conscience is bothering them. So they really want to serve people. They may also want to get into a cash practice model, which we are. So you don't have to deal with the 3 Ds of insurance: delay, deny, discount, and so on and so on. So you can get out of the rat race and do a lot of really good work. And if you're sort of trapped in it, you could just hire the people we've trained, because a lot of them aren't entrepreneurs. And matter of fact, I'm looking for ways to help with that aspect. I turn out a ton of great practitioners, but they have varying degrees of the ability to survive commercially. Like in the entrepreneur space, it's not that easy. And so some do really great, but others, they just want to work for a doctor or have a partner in some way that they can just do the lab. They'll do the lab work for you. They'll interpret it to the patient, and they'll just do all the holistic healing that goes along so well with what that doctor's doing. So doesn't matter what kind of doctor you are, if you want someone by your side that can actually take over patient education on all of the you know, adjunctive therapies and things that person could be doing so that they really get well. Your patients will appreciate it, and you'll enjoy working with our team, our people that we train.
Well, really, your community.
The community. Well, I've trained over 4,000 people. 1,100 are sort of, I'll call them dues paying members of our professional association. And a lot of them do have their own businesses, but a lot of them are, looking for relationships, positions, so they can just be part of a team. And we have a job board, and so if anyone's interested in finding an FDN to work in your office, we would love to help you sort it out.
Yeah, fantastic. So, for my opinion, the FDN route, for those of you who are like, oh, I really want to just get a snapshot of what's going on with my systems, I would go the FDN route. And then if you're a practitioner, you're like, I would love to add these tools to my toolkit to serve more people. Reed, you have a great way to kind of connect the two. So where can people find you? Where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, well, the fdntraining.com/Varga would be a great place to start. We can give you, there's something there for everybody. We have free programs, we have ebooks, we have stuff that would be useful. You're going to get more information. It might point you right to the right direction, or it might be just opening up some doors of further investigation or education that you might be interested in. So fdntraining.com/Varga in your honor, Rachel.
Thank you. And just to add one final layer to this, if you are a practitioner and you're looking to add another way to support you and your family and make a difference in the world, getting that additional FDN certification at the end of your name and credentials, I just think is a great thing to do, and add those more tools to your toolkit. We're seeing more and more Western trained practitioners getting excited about updating their level of education in how they serve people. So thank you so much, Reed Davis, for
Thank
your
you.
time here on the show, giving us these updates.
Always a pleasure.
Always. And I love you all so much. Those of you tuning in here to the School of Radiance podcast, be sure to follow Reed Davis. You can find his information all over the place. He's very well known. He's the OG of gut health and has some great resources and additional information and interviews online too. So definitely do a deep dive if you're curious about supporting gut health and also learning how to support others with their gut health. Reed Davis is the gentleman to follow. See you all again very soon right here on the School of Radiance podcast.